Hi, it's Mike DelSignore, Massachusetts OUI lawyer. In today's video, I want to talk about what happens if you're arrested for OUI in Massachusetts and you have a Rhode Island license. Now, I'm licensed in both states, but I don't really do work in Rhode Island anymore. I'm busy enough in Mass, but I know the laws there. I know other lawyers there, so I can tell you what's going to happen in Rhode Island. So let's say you have a Rhode Island license and you get an OUI in Attleboro, Uxbridge, Fall River. It can really be any courts, but those are the most common courts right on the border. So it's going to happen if you refuse the breathalyzer in Massachusetts. You're looking at a 6-month suspension here. Typically, Rhode Island will find out in about 2 weeks from the arrest, and they will also impose a suspension. So you're looking at a suspension in both states. 6 months in Massachusetts. Rhode Island will suspend you indefinitely until you're cleared in Massachusetts. So Rhode Island and Massachusetts communicate, so you're not going to avoid a suspension in Rhode Island if you have an OUI in Massachusetts and you have a Rhode Island license. Now, if you admit to the OUI, you're looking at another 45 days in Massachusetts, potentially 90 days in Massachusetts. In most cases, Rhode Island will run the 6 months and the 90 days together. So basically, whenever you reinstate in Mass, you should be able to reinstate in Rhode Island. If you refused to took a breath test and failed, it's a 30-day suspension in Massachusetts. I've seen Rhode Island pick up on that, and sometimes they don't. So get reinstated as quickly as you can in Massachusetts. Day 31, try to reinstate, and then you should be able to reinstate in Rhode Island if you're fighting the case. So keep in mind, the OUI affects you in both states. So the best thing to do is try to fight the case. OUI cases are very winnable cases. In other words, there's a lot of reasons why you may have been arrested and that they can't prove the case. Breathalyzer evidence is very subject to error. The officer has to comply with an observation period. There's certain documents that need to be obtained by the district attorney in order to get these breath tests into evidence. So don't assume that just because you took a breath test, you can't win the case. Now, if you refused a breath test, that's a subjective case. It's just the officer's opinion. You may have done very well in the field sobriety test. Often the officers don't know how to score these tests. They don't score them fairly. So there's a lot of reasons why your field sobriety test may not show impairment. I'll be able to bring that out in cross-examination. I cross-examine police officers every day in court. Go to trial on these, have motions. That's my job. I fight these cases. If you want to resolve it, if the case is not defensible, we can resolve it. But my goal is to get you out of this, have you found not guilty. So I'll do everything I can to show you the ways you can potentially win your case. There's typically not a huge difference between accepting a plea and going to trial, even if you're found guilty. Judges in Massachusetts don't penalize people for exercising their trial rights typically. I handle these cases all over Massachusetts, so wherever your case is, I can help you make the best decisions for yourself. Now, this is my passion, helping people win their OUI cases, and I want you to understand the court process, the license implications, and if you have a Rhode Island license, it's going to be double in both states. So keep that in mind. The first court date is going to be your arraignment. After your arraignment, you're going to enter a not guilty. You're going to enter a not guilty plea. You'll get a further date for pretrial. So the cases take some time to go through the court system. You don't just go right to trial. The court goes from arraignment to pretrial, eventually to trial. In Massachusetts, if you resolve the case, you get what's called a continuance without a finding. It's technically not a conviction, but it will follow you in Rhode Island. So don't assume that. A lot of people hear 45 days and think that's it. No, it's not the case if you have a Rhode Island license. Additionally, you won't be able to get a hardship in Massachusetts because you have an out-of-state license. So there's a lot of differences when you have an out-of-state license. But fundamentally, if you can win the case, that's the best situation. If you get it found not guilty, there's a presumption of reinstatement on the refusal. If you get reinstated on the refusal, that generally Rhode Island will honor that, and you can potentially get back on the road. So if you're arrested for OUI and your case is in Massachusetts, but you have a Rhode Island license, feel free to call me. I've handled this situation for years. Call, text anytime, 781-686-5924. My name is Mike DelSignore. My passion is helping people make the best decisions for themselves when charged with OUI.